What's up, everybody? Major Retired Richard Ojeda here, and what an ugly morning. A nightmare that we all woke up to, praying that it wasn't real, yet here we are.
Did voters hand Trump and the Republican Party a sweeping mandate?
Well, I respect the will of the people, certainly. I'm not going to respect the ill of a weasel in Donald Trump, somebody who doesn't understand that these same voters don't want government-mandated abortions. They don't want a sweep up and roundup of anyone who looks like an immigrant in this country. They don't want us to walk away from our obligation to defend Ukraine.
For everyone who went to bed Tuesday night holding on to the last shred of hope, telling their kids it's going to be okay, we all know how it felt waking up Wednesday. For the millions who dared to believe that things might turn around, who believed in the decency and wisdom of this country, this is a gut punch. And Gayle King's reaction says it all.
I spent a year of my life digging into January 6th. I believe, based on my reporting, it was a very serious moment in American history. You had a president of the United States work to pressure his party and his vice president to overturn the election. Many voters did not process January 6, 2021 as a grave moment in American democracy. And because of that, a lot of Republican voters are not turning on the character and conduct question.
Yeah. How is that possible, though, Bob, when you look at those pictures? I think that's what many people are grappling with. You look at January 6th, he characterized it as a protest of love. He characterized it as patriots. Yet you're right when you say that is not how people saw that. How is that possible?
How could this have happened? How could so many people turn a blind eye to a man who has made it his mission to dismantle the very fabric of what we all stand for? This is a man who threatens to strip health care from our parents, who sneers at the rights of LGBTQ plus family members, who would tear apart families with his brutal immigration policies, and who only respects those who fit his narrow, twisted vision of what it means to be American. And now he's back with more power, more influence, and a team that is dead set on reshaping this nation in their image. What we saw in this election was a betrayal of everything we thought America stood for, a betrayal of every value they claimed to represent. Family values, morals, let's call it what it is, a twisted version, a hollow shell, the kind of morality that picks a criminal over compassion, that chooses Barabbas over Jesus, and they'll sleep just fine because they're convinced themselves that's striking a blow against the government, against the man. And let's be honest, this betrayal runs deeper than just the politics of the moment. MSNBC analyst Basil Smikle pointed out that Vice President Kamala Harris's loss is tied to deep-rooted issues of sexism and racism that still grip this country.
There are levels of sexism and racism that clearly a lot of people in this country are willing to tolerate, which is also something that, you know, we may have woken up in the same country in a sense, but that becomes much more clear this morning.
It's not just a Democratic problem, it's a societal one. Voters tolerated and even embraced these attitudes, letting a candidate like Trump use division and hatred as tools to secure victory. So the Democratic coalition phrase, not only because of internal weakness, but because too many in this country are willing to overlook basic decency. Their reckless decisions and blind loyalty are going to haunt this nation. And make no mistake, if you believe Trump's words about being a dictator on day one were just bluster, you're fooling yourself. If you think Project 2025 is just a set of empty promises, you're in denial.
People are saying they were unhappy with the way things are going in the country, economically, the border, crime. They want Trump to fix it. There were a significant number of voters who would say, when hearing the most extreme things Trump is talking about, we got through the first term and none of these things happened. So 11% of voters who said Trump was too extreme voted for him. That is the bet they are making.
We have a colloquialism. It's FAFO. I'm going to let people Google that, right? And you're going to find out in the first 6 months of what that chaos was.
He has spelled out his plans, rolling back women's rights, targeting immigrants, stripping protections for the vulnerable. He's made it clear that he'll do it. And this time he has the team and the power to make it happen. So let's look at who really wins here, because it's not the ordinary American. It's not the people who are struggling to get by, who need health care, who rely on Social Security, who want clean air and safe drinking water. The only ones who win here are Donald Trump, who's managed to avoid justice by manipulating the system. People like Elon Musk, who'll get to tear down agencies, gut protections, and reshape the government like he did with Twitter, and maybe, just maybe, Vladimir Putin, watching as America tears itself apart. For everyone else, we're left to pick up the pieces. When your daughter finds herself in need of care, but there's nowhere to turn, when your parents lose their Social Security and health care, when overtime is gone and the playing field is slanted so steeply that the American dream becomes nothing but a cruel joke, this is the future that we're facing. They've lowered the bar for everyone. And for what? Because they couldn't handle the truth. Because they couldn't face reality. Because they couldn't stand the thought of ever being wrong. The Department of Education, they're going to dismantle it, leaving quality schooling for only those who can afford it. Healthcare, only if you have the money. Protections for workers, gone. The rich will get richer, and the rest of us will be left struggling, pawns in their twisted game. Is this what they mean by making America great again? Nobody knows agony like the broken. Nobody fights as hard as the underdog. Nobody listens as intently as the souls that were silenced. Those words by Samira Vivette hold a special truth for all of us today. For those of us who have tested despair, who have known the feeling of fighting an uphill battle, we are the ones who will stand up and fight tooth and nail to make sure others don't feel the same emptiness. So where do we go from here? What do we do now in the face of this nightmare? When nothing makes sense, we have to choose hope over fear. We have to choose love over hate and faith over confusion. We have to choose to believe that somehow it will all be okay, even when it feels impossible, because no matter how bleak it looks, we can't afford to give up. We've got to remember that how we act, what we say, how we show up, it matters. We might be the lighthouse in someone else's storm, a glimmer of hope in a world that feels like it's crumbling. Now let's be real. There's going to be a lot of work to do. We need to hold this administration accountable, no matter how difficult that might be with a Republican-controlled House and Senate. But that doesn't mean that we stop trying. We need to document every failure, every broken promise, every betrayal. They say they'll protect workers, they won't. They say they'll look out for the environment, they won't. They say they'll care about NATO, Ukraine, democracy. Just watch. They're taking us backwards, unraveling years of progress. They're not going to close the border to protect families. They'd rather have kids in cages, stripping away any sense of dignity, of humanity. They're not going to stand up for the people. They're not going to do anything of the things that they promised. They're going to cut your benefits, gut Social Security, take away overtime pay. And what about the environment? What about the future of our planet? They're going to ignore the science, pollute our waters, open up coastlines to industry, all in the name of profit. And let's not forget what we're leaving behind. When the time comes and the future generations ask why they can't farm the land, or why the air is so thick that they can't breathe, or why the water is not safe to drink, we'll have to look them in the eye and say that it was all for the economy, that the price of gas was down, so we sacrificed everything else. Won't that be a hollow answer? Yeah. What do we tell our children when they ask why we let this happen? How do we explain that in a moment when we had a choice between a livable future and the destruction of our resources, we chose convenience. We chose now over later. We chose to protect the powerful over the vulnerable. But here's where we find our strength. Lila June Johnston, a Native American activist, poet, singer, songwriter, and environmental warrior, has dedicated her life to advocating for special or social and environmental justice. She has fought for the land, for the people, and for the future with a resilience that speaks volumes. Her words remind us that this fight goes beyond politics. It's about the survival of what's sacred, about the future of our land, our people, and our values. As she says, we need to pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, grieve, be angry, and then find a place within our own hearts and within our own beings. And when we've gathered that strength, we will go out and give it everything we've got to fight for our future, to fight for our daughters, our sons, our families, our water, our air, our planet. Because this fight isn't just for us. It's for everything we hold dear and for everyone who will come after us. We have to hold each other up and go out there and give it everything we've got. Even if it feels like a dark moment, we have to believe that light comes through. We'll fight for the future because it's ours to shape, and we're not done yet. Together, we are going to find our way forward. We're going to be the lighthouse in someone else's storm, the voice that refuses to be silenced, the hearts that refuse to stay broken. For every inch of land, for every drop of water, for every soul who looks to us and wonders if it'll be okay, we're going to stand and fight because we are not done. Not now, not ever. And that is an absolute fact. Sappers clear the way, airborne all the way.